Right.
Okay.
Hi there. How are you?
Good. How are you doing today? I'm so
I'm
happy to be
good.
here.
Thank you. Hi, it's Donna Nauman, nurse practitioner of 18 years, turned healthpreneur and going crazy about all the wonderful health things that we can do to become healthy. And today I'd like to introduce our special guest, Carol Benn.
Yes.
Yay!
Yes.
She has a program that is about sensuality and sexuality. So couldn't get anything better than that. Carol, will you tell us a little bit about what you're doing and just tell us about your whole program?
Yeah. So I'm a sensuality and intimacy coach, and my passion really is working with women 45 and older who are like in perimenopause and menopause, helping them to reconnect to their body or just connect for the first time because so many of us are so disconnected from our bodies because we're so in our heads. But and helping them to experience more pleasure, more sensuality, more sexuality in their life,
Hmm.
and yeah, and just helping to bring that pleasure back into their lives that so many of us, like I said, we get so busy and put everybody before us
Yeah,
as
I
women.
think I
That's
think at the practice, looking at patients coming in, really focusing in on the blood pressure, the blood sugar, the weight, the depression, the anxiety, and then really totally missing a component of a natural process, which is our sensuality, our sexuality, which I feel like is so natural. We don't talk about it, and yet I feel like that's really where people connect with each other. What have you found in your practice as far as feeling connected and women really being in that place of presence?
well, what I find with the women that I work with is that they experience a lot of shame around their sexuality. And so they don't talk about it. They don't ask questions, and
Never. Mm-mm.
they don't. And what I find really interesting is, we will go and we will pay someone to be our health coach, to tell us what to eat and what not to eat. We'll go pay a personal trainer to tell us how many sit-ups and how many push-ups to do. We'll
Yeah.
we'll pay somebody.
And we don't even like those things.
I know. We'll pay somebody to be our spiritual coach, and we will pay someone to help us with our personal and spiritual growth. But somehow we have it in our heads that we should just know what to do with our sex lives.
And who would have been teaching us? Like, my mom was not teaching me.
Exactly. Who
She was a
teaches
single
us?
mom and she rarely dated. So like
Yes.
how you, I remember her buying us these little books and it talked about reproductive and all the the physiologies of growing into an adult. That's
Yes.
what I learned.
That doesn't teach you anything about intimacy and
No.
communication and how to have a relationship. And it also doesn't teach you about pleasure.
You know what I find a lot, and maybe you could speak to this, is a lot of the women that come in menopausal are also at this place in their life where their kids have grown up and left.
Mhm.
Their hormones are all over the place, and
Mhm.
they kind of look at their partner and go, so what is that? Is that a phase that women go through, or what is that exactly? Because I really do get asked that question a lot. I was just talking about it with somebody yesterday, and yeah, actually, two people in the last week have asked me about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's really a matter of desire and lack of desire. And we have kind of this system in our body that one side is kind of what they call exciters
Hmm.
and the other is inhibitors. And they're sexual exciters, sexual inhibitors.
Hmm.
And what you really want is kind of to have them balanced, but so many people don't. So in things that can be inhibitors, stress is a huge inhibitor for and I heard these numbers and I went, that yeah, exactly. So 80 to 90% of all people, stress actually lowers their level of desire, but it also lowers um no, okay. So it lowers their level of desire. For that other 10 to 20%, it either doesn't affect them at all, and there's the rare people that stress actually raises their desire.
We want to
But
be that one. I'll be
yeah,
that one.
we all want to be that one, right? But for all people across the board, stress affects how you receive pleasure.
Affects everything.
It affects
Your
every,
hormones, your inflammation markers, your
yes.
ability to sleep. I mean, all those things kind of have a trickle down. I think at this age, we really should be really focused on making those connections, especially with things that are going into COVID. What would you tell women to be really like a daily routine for themselves to find their sensuality, to find that space of their woman, their sexuality?
Yeah. Well, I think with, with day-to-day stress and everything that goes on with our lives, we're taking care of kids, we're taking care of spouses, we're taking care of the home, we're working, we have our own career and everything is we get disconnected from our body. We stay so in our head. So if you can
Mm,
find a way to reconnect to your body, get out of your head, be in your body,
yeah.
that makes all the difference in the world. And that was a huge lesson for me when I went through my training to become the training I went through was for sex, love, and relationships.
Hmm.
Um, but that was a big part of it was learning how to get out of my head and really reconnect to my body and doing exercises. And you can do it through meditation. We did a lot of breath work that
Hmm.
brought us into our bodies. But there's so many practices that I share with women to help them reconnect to their body. And then specifically, once they get reconnected just to their entire body, it's to reconnect them to their sexuality and to reconnect them to their pleasure. And then they get turned on. And it's amazing to see the difference in them. I mean, you can see like their whole energy, their body language shifts, their energy shifts. And when all of a sudden they're connected to their sensuality again. And I mean, you can see even when I start talking about it, I start like moving my
Sure,
shoulders
it's certainly good. No, yeah.
around because yeah, that's what happens. You get lit up, you get turned on. And I love helping women get to that point of just feeling like they are turned on in their life. It doesn't just have to be sexual, just be turned
Turn
on in general.
on, period. Yeah. I'm
Yes.
really finding that place of joy.
Yeah.
One of the things that I saw, like when we talk about orgasm versus pleasure,
Mhm.
can you speak to that a little bit?
Yes. Well, in our society, we are such a goal oriented society. So, in our minds now, we've been conditioned that the goal of sex is orgasm.
Mm. No, I think that's kind of, well, you got all the commercials that are running for erectile dysfunction. I
Yeah.
mean, it's all about that. Yeah.
It's the end goal. It's the end goal.
Yeah.
And for a lot of women, when we're having sex, that keeps us in our heads and it puts pressure on them. Oh, I've got to get there. I've got to get there. And you're in your head. You're in your head. And that can actually make it harder for you to get there. Meanwhile, you're missing some of the pleasure that's going on
Hmm.
and really experiencing the full amount of pleasure. So, what I encourage a lot of people to do, whether it's women, couples, and this is true even in self pleasure. It's not just about having experiencing pleasure with a partner. It's also self pleasure.
Hmm.
Really tap into and focus on the pleasure and make that your goal. Just pleasure. If you
Yeah.
get the orgasm, that's great. That's like the icing on the cake. But it's not, there's nothing wrong with if you don't have an orgasm because it should be all about experiencing pleasure by yourself, experiencing pleasure with your partner.
Well, and it's true that that connection creates oxytocin and it creates really chemicals in our body that are chemicals that make us feel bonded to one another. I have somebody that I talked to, I don't know, last year maybe it was, and her husband, like they're not active together and they don't even lay together. And my thought is like, if nothing, even if you're not having sex together, you still need to be together. And they have a very loving relationship.
Mhm.
So you need that connection. You need that
Yes.
oxytocin. You need to be building those chemicals in your brain that bring you pleasure. Is that what you found in your studies as well?
Yes, you know, that connection, that intimate connection that you have is just so important in any relationship, but just as human beings. And that's one of the things, you know, with everything being shut down, and especially for
Yeah.
single people. I'm single. I have spent most of the last year by myself, and that's really hard, you know, because we need that connection. We need that intimacy with other people, whether it's with a
Do.
partner, family members, friends, you know, just to be touched helps, to, you know, just to be hugged. I mean, they've done studies on, you know, getting hugged for 20 seconds, all the different chemicals that it
Yeah.
releases in your body and how good that is for you.
Yeah.
And when we don't have that, it makes a difference in our lives. It really does.
Yeah. I think I heard Dr. Virginia Satir, is that
Mm.
she's like a hugging expert, and she says you need 12 hugs a day. So then you just gotta have to start giving them to yourself because
Yeah, I make my dogs, I make
yeah,
my
you're like,
dogs
come here.
put arms on my shoulders and I hug them and they're like, no, let me go, let me go. But I'm like, no, I need a hug.
So you have a class that's coming up, and you said you have a free class for women coming up next
Yes,
week.
yes, I do. I'm offering, it's a 3-day free retreat. It's
Mm,
called the Wise Woman Collective, Making Menopause Sexy.
that's
And so it's for women 45 and above, or women experiencing perimenopause and menopause. And my goal is I want to create community. I want to create a space for us to come to as we journey into our wise woman years, or are in our wise woman years, because we don't celebrate those kind of things anymore. There are no traditions where, oh, you're starting this new phase of life, so let's celebrate it and have ritual around it.
yeah,
uh,
this should be a celebration.
it should be
Really.
a celebration. and
Yeah.
and that's the thing, our society, just, we don't celebrate aging. Everything is anti-aging, it's against aging,
Yeah.
you know. I
Yeah.
want women to feel good about aging, whatever that looks like to them. It doesn't matter. There's no judgment. I mean, if you want to go get, you know, Botox and fillers and plastic surgery, more power to you if that's what makes you feel good. But
Hmm.
if you don't want to do that and you want to age naturally, more power to you.
Yeah.
Let's lift each other up, come together, lift each other up. I also have, you know, some things that I'm going to be teaching, and I will be also sharing some embodied tantric based practices that women can do to help connect them to their bodies and their sensuality and sexuality during the retreat.
Huh. Okay, well, that's good. I also, so kind of going to the female physio, the female, how we're made down there, the
Mhm.
labia and the vagina.
Yeah.
So I read an article once about that depending how far the clitoris is from the vaginal opening decides kind of about how orgasmic women are. Have you
Mm,
read anything about that or?
I haven't read anything about that, but I can see how that could, with a partner, if you're
Mhm.
trying to have an orgasm during penetration, how
Uh-huh.
that might make a difference. But I think if you're self pleasuring, or you know, or during oral sex, or if your partner is using their hands, that I don't know I don't know how that would make a difference.
Yeah,
Um, because
I
I know,
thought it was interesting.
yeah, yeah.
So like how many, do you know what the statistics are? Like, do all women have orgasm with sex, or do more women need to have stimulation to have orgasm?
Most women need to have direct stimulation on their clitoris in order to have orgasm. Um, but not everybody does. And there are different, and what I learned in my training, um, and I actually met women who could do some of this stuff. I'm still working on it. That can have they can have cervical orgasms. They have uterine orgasms, and you can have orgasms all over your body too, which is pretty, you know, and also G-spot orgasms too. So it's not just, but the most common is having a clitoral orgasm, and most women don't get the right stimulation during penetration.
Mm.
have an orgasm during penetration. So, one of the big things I want women to know is that no matter how you have what you need to do to have an orgasm or to get turned on, or your level of desire or lack of desire, it's all totally normal.
Mm.
There's nothing wrong with you. And for me, um that was a huge healing moment when I read that. So there's a book that I highly recommend, and I do have it
I
sitting.
should write it down. Now put it
I've
up.
got it. Come as You Are. This book talks all about women's desire, and the way she explains it, and it's from a scientific point, but it's not real sciency type book. I mean, it's not a real technical book. It's she writes it so that anybody can read it and enjoy it. Um, but her big message is that no matter where you are on the desire scale, or having an orgasm or not having orgasm, it's it's normal. There's nothing wrong with you. Because I have, just some of my personal experience in the past. I've been shamed for being too sexual, and I also have been shamed for not being sexual enough.
Huh. I
That'll
think that's a learned thing too, don't you? Like, I
and
know for
that
me,
came
like,
that came from men. That came from my own partners that I was with.
huh.
That either I was too sexual or I wasn't sexual enough. And oh, by the way, if I am cheating on you, it's because you're not giving me enough sex. I mean, seriously, I've had those kind of things. So it made me feel there was something wrong with me, that
Mhm.
now I'm not sexual enough. And what happens if I get is this going to happen again if I get into another relationship? And after reading this book, I went, no, no, any man that I am with is going to learn and understand desire, lack of desire, and what it's going to take to turn me on and to get me
Well,
to the place where
do
I want
you
to have
do you
sex.
think all women know what that is?
No.
And does that start in our brain? Like, yeah.
Well, no, I don't think all women know what it is, because what we are told in movies, and in movies, on TV, and especially in porn, that we should be ready to go at the drop of a hat.
Hmm.
Because men, I'm sorry, the wind blows and they're ready to go. And they get turned on. Women, it starts in our brain. We need that connection with our partner. That is so important. That's where it starts, is having that deeper connection with our partner, and it starts in our brain.
Do women fantasize as much as men? And if they don't, should they be?
um I don't want to make a blanket statement, but I don't think as many women do as men. I know there are women that are.
Mm.
I go through, mine fluctuates. I mean, there's times that I fantasize that I'm thinking about sex all the time, and I'm like, who are they to say that women don't think about sex as much as men? There's other times, and it depends what's going on in my life. It depends where I am stress wise, because I know for me, stress kills my desire. That's the first thing that goes. But I also know that when I am really stressed out, the thing I need most when I'm with a partner is I need that intimate connection.
Yeah.
Because guess what? Sex is a great stress reliever. It is.
Well, they say that stress is the equivalent of doing a cardiac stress test. That's how much it gets your heart rate up and how much it gets the body moving. So, like, it really is a good form of exercise. So, I
It
think,
is, but unfortunately, like, but it's that catch 22. Okay, well, I'm really stressed out, so I don't want sex, but sex with a partner is exactly what I need to help me feel better, to calm me down, to help relieve some of that stress and feel connection when I am with a partner. So yeah, it's a cycle that we get in, and
could you give us like a sneak peek of what you'll be teaching at your class, or what you might tell someone? Like, you just met them on the street and they just have like a question, and like what would be like your number one go-to for people as far for women for women?
Yeah. Um, so for my class, one of the big things I want to get across, and I know this has really it's been all over the internet, it's been all over Facebook, and people are talking about it, but how important self-care really is.
Mm,
Because again, as women, we put everybody and everything before ourselves. And it really is important to take that time every single day and do something just for ourselves.
mm,
If that means if you're married or with a partner and you have kids and you're like, you know what, you take the kids, I need to go lock myself in the bedroom for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, whatever,
hmm.
and have some me time and figure out what really nurtures your soul. You know,
Mm,
it could be just sitting there quietly doing nothing, maybe just staring out the window, you know. It could be meditation. Maybe you know, I'm a person, I love taking bubble baths, so for me that's a huge self-care, taking
mm.
a nice warm bubble bath for myself. um it could be just having the time to sit down and read a book. For me, I have found, because I've gotten so caught up in learning and doing, so I'm always reading books that either teach me something for
Me too.
for my personal and spiritual growth. A couple months ago, I went, no, I am reading a book just for my own pleasure,
For fun. Yeah.
just for fun. I'm reading a fiction book that's not going to teach me anything. But it can be something as simple as that. It doesn't have to be a big, oh, well, I have to prepare. And no, just make it simple, but make sure that you do every single day something just for you,
Hmm. Yeah.
you
I like
know?
that because I do think we get really caught up in the busyness, and the phones and the computers have not made that any easier. We just don't have any alone time anymore, and I
No,
think
you
we
don't.
crave it. We do crave it.
Yes. Yeah.
So one of the things I noticed on your website was soul and essence
Yeah.
of living in a soul purpose of your essence. Is that
Mhm. Yeah. So part of what um my my mission is to connect people back to what I call their soul essence. And their soul essence is who you were at the moment you were born.
mm,
At the moment we are born, we are perfect. We are pure love. That is who we are. And to get people to recognize that and learn how to love themselves like that. Because
mm,
that's what I think a lot of this really boils down to, is because I see so many women that I ask them, so, do you love yourself? Well, of course I love myself.
yeah, they're
Is
almost offended when you ask them, but I ask that a lot at the office too, and it always kind of makes me
but
laugh.
but they but their actions and their words that they say to themselves don't don't align with loving
No,
themselves.
not at
Every
all.
time, you do something, oh my God, that was so stupid. I can't believe how stupid I am. That's not loving. Is that what you would say to the person that you love the most in the world? Would you sit there and berate them and call them? No, that's not love.
No, not at all.
And so getting people to really be connected to themselves and really fall in love with themselves
Hmm.
by going in and healing their past traumas and um and helping them to live the life that they really want to be living, connect to their desires.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Valentine's is coming up. What
Mhm.
kind of advice would you give women for Valentine's?
So for Valentine's Day, um it depends. I've got two different pieces of advice. I have advice for women who are in a relationship and advice for women who are not in a relationship.
I think we need both because everybody's not in one.
Exactly. Well, I'm not in one. So,
Yeah.
now, but I have been in relationships, and I've been in relationships with men who, run the gamut from, here I'm going to be as romantic as I can possibly be, to men, oh, Valentine's is a made up day and I shouldn't have to do anything. Um,
It is made up for us.
so
But isn't it funny? We need a day to remind us to love.
well, yeah, that's the
Really, it
thing.
should be every day. Let's
If
just
you're with
put
a
that out
partner
there.
who's able to show you their love on a regular basis and they really know how to do it, well, then yeah, you don't need it. But guess what? A lot of people don't because again, they get caught up in the day to day,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, you know. And for so for women that are single, and this is what I do for myself, guess what? I decide I make it a day just for me. It's all about me. And I look at it, okay, what would I do if I had a partner? What would I do for the person that I love the most? What would I make them for dinner?
That I like.
I have made myself, I mean, everything. Sometimes, some years it's pizza. And I've also made myself a nice filet mignon and, with all the sides. And I sit there with a really nice glass of wine and I sit there and I just enjoy it. And I focus on the pleasure. I focus on the taste of what I'm eating and the taste of the wine as I'm drinking it. And and I do for myself what I would want to do for the person that I love.
Aw, I think that's sweet.
And that's how I show myself. I'm my own Valentine. I don't have to sit here, unlike, contrary to what society tells us, that you have to be sad or there's something wrong with you if you're alone, that you
Yeah.
can't make Valentine's Day be a good thing for yourself.
For some people, it is a very hard holiday, honestly, you
It is.
know?
And it was for a long time for me.
Yeah.
It was. And I had to switch that my mindset.
Yeah.
And it was when I fell in love with myself that I was able to do that.
Hmm. I like that.
Yeah. 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 And so for women who are married or in a relationship, um, do for your partner. Sometimes giving can be as fulfilling as receiving,
Mhm. Yeah.
you know? And so that's what I've, especially when I've been with someone, have I been disappointed on Valentine's Day? Yes, I have, because I am a hopeless romantic. I am. So,
I know. Well, because we grew up with that in the movies. They're so
well, yes,
romantic, like, "Oh, they're so good."
yes, yes. But that's not always reality. And,
Well, the reality of it kind of goes back to what you're saying earlier, is we all just have to be okay with where we're okay. And that our normal is our normal, and our normal may
exactly.
be different from somebody else's normal, so to
Yeah,
speak.
and not everybody wants to celebrate Valentine's Day or cares about it. So,
Yeah.
and that's okay too.
Yeah.
You do what works best for you and your partner,
Yeah.
you
Huh,
know?
I like that.
Yeah.
So, what other kind of things do you like to work on, or what have you found in women that, like some, I don't know, I always have these cute little things that I know people don't know. And I'm always like, oh, I just can't wait to tell them what I know. So, like, is there a couple things that you learned along the way that you're like, oh, that's so interesting. People need to know that.
Um, well, yeah, well, the one of the big things was that I've already covered is kind of that the whole that desire and lack of desire, and once you understand why, the things that inhibit your desire, then you can figure out what excites your desire and
Mhm.
share that with your partner so that now your partner knows what to do to help kind of bring your desire up.
Well,
And
maybe it's okay for women to say what they need.
well, yeah, that was going to be my next thing is that intimate communication. I'm actually working right now on an ebook that will hopefully be done in like the next couple of days, that is all about, it's for couples and it's to teach them how to have intimate communication,
Hmm.
how to talk about sex so that it's
Yeah.
even better for them, how to do it so that one person doesn't get offended, and also to understand that just because maybe something you didn't feel good to your partner doesn't mean that you're not a good lover. It just means that it didn't feel good to them,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
intimate,
agree.
that it's that intimate communication that, I mean, I know couples that can talk about sex and they talk about sex a lot with each other, but they don't know how to talk about what they don't like or what doesn't feel good to them.
Hmm.
And they forget about that. It's always about, oh, well, this feels so good, or I really like it when you do this, or I really like it when you do that. That's easy to talk about.
Yeah.
Well, for some people it's not easy to talk about sex in any way, shape, or form. But even for the people that it is easy, to start saying, I really don't like it when we just did X, Y, or Z. It didn't feel good. Or when you touched me this way, or when you did this, it didn't feel good. Well, how did it feel? Or how did it make you feel inside?
Hmm.
And having those deeper conversations,
Yeah.
and
I,
also and also understanding that what might feel good this time might not feel good the next time. And it
yeah.
depends on where you are mentally and emotionally. And for women, it can also depend on where you are hormonally, because our bodies change hormonally
Hmm.
daily.
Yeah.
you know there Our
Her,
hormones are
her
just
hormone mess.
it's I mean it we're like this. So we perceive pleasure different on different days.
Well, yeah, and as women are going through menopause, some things they don't understand is they can be super dry. They
Yes.
can start to experience a lack of motivation for sexual encounters simply because their hormones are they're messed up. And it's harder for them to find that happy place.
Yeah.
But guys go through that too. That's not just singularly for women. When after the age of 50, well, actually, men start losing their testosterone after the age of 30. It's a small amount. But so if you're thinking about women and they're in their 50s, well, you used to have estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and all those things help with your thyroid, and all those things like help keep you active and moving. And now you're kind of just sluggish because those things aren't working as well anymore. So I think we forget that and to be kind to ourselves, that it's not working like it used to, which is okay, but you
Exactly.
have to learn to accommodate what's going on with your body as you age as well.
Well, yeah, and I think a lot of people they don't consciously think about that. It's like, I think if you sit there and you say that to someone, they're like, well, yeah, that's pretty obvious. But I don't think people actually consciously sit and go, you know what? I can't, sex isn't the same as it was. What do
Hmm.
we need to do differently? What can we make it? And it doesn't mean that doing something differently that's not a bad thing. It's just different. Just because
Yeah.
our bodies are changing, and now we need to use lubrication, whereas 5 or 10 years we didn't have to.
Hmm.
That's not
Yeah.
a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with you.
Yeah,
That's
and I think you
that's
really
just
kind of need to make that part of what you're doing too, so that it isn't, oh shoot, really knowing that you're changing and making changes in your life so that when you are becoming active, that you actually have it kind of, like as if it's romantic, you're romantically doing it. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah. And also having those discussions though outside of the bedroom, instead of waiting until the moment when things are starting to, heat up between you and your lover. That's not the time to have these discussions. Have them outside the bedroom. A great tip that I have for couples is, and I realize it depends on, whether you have kids still in the home, or other people living with you, or even pets that get into things. But I say, make a little, either have in your nightstand, have a sex drawer, or have a sex box that you can slide under your bed that has all your lubes and any, or your sex toys, if you want to incorporate those. Have them so that they're handy, so that you don't start and it's like, oh, the lube's in the bathroom, now we got to stop. you know have
Yeah.
it right there. So, like I said, in the nightstand, have it in a box, or I've got a cute little basket, quite honestly, that sits next to my bed. So everything is right there. Anything that I might need, it's right there. Um,
That's so open, like people are probably going, oh my gosh, I would never like have that in my, because yeah.
You know what? Well, I so I knew someone that they actually, when their kids were younger, they did have a sex drawer. And they put one of those child latches on the drawer so their kids couldn't get into it. And obviously as the kids got older, they, figured it out. But when they were little, this way, they weren't getting into, all of their stuff. And they did have to kind of come up with something different as their kids got older. But you know what, as kids get older, then you tell them, you know what, that's for mom and dad. That drawer is not for you.
Hmm.
This is our personal private. And we need to teach our kids to also give us that space.
Yeah, and
Give us
somewhere
that
in that,
privacy and understand.
some,
But I think that also teaches our children,
yes, yeah,
that you know what, mom and dad still have sex. Mom and dad still have that connection and that intimacy. And I think that's a good healthy thing to teach our children too.
yeah, that's an awkward space, really. It's kind of
It
like,
is.
because you're always trying to hide, and you're always trying to hide your sexuality, which is really kind of a shame in its own way, in its own sense, because it is very normal. But when the kids are growing up, like you don't want them to be sexually active until they're married. And so like, you're hiding this very thing that is really very intimate and personal.
Mhm.
But I think like, a lot of what gets in our head when we are sexually active is stuff we learned as a child, like how our mom and dad handled things. And
Oh, that definitely affects. Yes. Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh, we bring all of that. We bring all that messaging that we got as a child, and sometimes there's shame around it. Also, that, oh, oh, sex is dirty. Sex is dirty. It's
that
beautiful.
is, that is what it was when I was a kid. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes,
Yeah.
you didn't talk about sex. It was something. It was a big secret. Well, usually secrets, you hide things that are labeled, bad or naughty.
Hmm.
No, it's not. It's beautiful. And but that's what we end up teaching our children also.
By accident.
By accident, yes. Sometimes it's on purpose, but that's what I was. We didn't talk about sex in my family when
Yeah,
I was
no,
growing up.
no, never,
No.
ever. No.
Now, did I walk in on my parents a couple of times when I was a teenager? Yes, I did. So I knew, you know, that okay, they still have sex. And I thought it was pretty awesome.
You did.
I
Aw.
thought it was great that they were, my parents were older when they had me. My dad was like 40 when he had me, and my mom was 36, I think. Um, so by that time they were in, 50s. And I was like, so for me, I was like,
Huh.
so yeah, so because I caught them a couple of times, um, I knew that okay, people as they age still have sex. Now, had I not caught them, I don't know that I would have ever had that in my brain. But
Mhm.
so to me, that was, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Women kind of, there's so many different kinds. I mean, you can say some women have that sense of it's not right, and then you have other women that, yeah, it's all cool. And I guess it just kind of goes right back to that space where our norm is our norm.
Yeah.
I personally though really think that whether it's having sex or just being sensual, that
Yes.
that space where we're spending time together,
Hmm.
touching the skin, touching
Yes.
really is something that we need. It's essential to feeling the sense of love and
Oh,
bonding,
definitely,
you know.
definitely is. And it's the intimacy. you
Yeah.
know, and I like to point out to people, because especially men, when they hear intimacy, they automatically think sex. That's where they. But intimacy isn't just about sex.
Yeah.
You can have very, very intimate moments that have nothing to do with sex. And but that connection, that bond, that intimacy that you create with each other is so important. And like you said, that touching each other's skin doesn't have to be sexual.
Hmm.
And unfortunately for a lot of men, that that's the only touch they've ever had. with sexual touch. So they equate any touch with, oh, this means we're going to have sex.
Huh.
You know, there's a long time ago, I used to be a massage therapist, and I knew a woman who was a sex therapist, and she was working with a man who, um, that yeah, that's what he was. Number one, he was really awkward with women,
Mm.
but he equated all touch with sex. He did, even if you just came up and gave him a hug, he felt that was, to him, that was very sexual.
Huh.
She asked me if I would work with him as a massage therapist, just to give him a massage,
Oh, so that
so that
he
he
would
could,
be, yeah, that's interesting.
so that he could get used to non-sexual touch from a woman,
Huh.
you know?
Telling you, there's just all kinds of types and stuff, isn't there? Like everybody's just different.
Everybody's different. Exactly, exactly. But you have to have those open conversations with each other to find out exactly where your partner is, because you don't want to ever assume that you
Yeah.
know where your partner is at, or how they feel, or what's going on in their head, because most of the time you're going to be wrong.
Yeah.
Well, most of the time you're going to be wrong.
Isn't it
um
the truth? Yeah.
yeah.
I know for me, I don't know, maybe 5 or 10 years ago, the church was doing a class for married couples and trying to help them bond together. And they had us every week, we did something different. And so I think what you're doing is super important, because we got a lot out of those classes, that we were really talking about sexuality and the functions of of partners together, people
Yes.
together, and learning a lot about touching each other without sexual encounters, and how important that is, kind of as a play and get ready. Um, so I think that what you're doing and offering here is super important, because women, we all have these different varied beliefs and ideas about how this is supposed to work. And as you said, we're all so different. But I think in the classes, you'll be very specific about helping women feel comfortable in that sexuality.
Yes, and yes, and their sexuality and their sensuality, and like I said, just getting that reconnection to their body, that is
Yeah.
just so important. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you like doing like the essential oils and candles and all of those kinds of things? I guess as a massage therapist, you probably use a lot of oils.
Yeah, I haven't been a massage therapist for years, but yeah, I love essential oils.
Is
For
there one that's really, really good for women and relationships? And
um there's you know what, my go-to is always going to be lavender, because it does so much. It is because, again, with your sensuality and your sexuality, you need to be relaxed.
I
You
just
need,
put lavender on where we
yeah,
started, sitting
yeah.
right here, my lavender. So that's funny.
Yes, yes. So that's always a go-to, and depending on where you get your essential oils from, what company you get it from, they usually have like a passion blend
Yeah.
that's usually pretty good, that they've, put together. But I'm also starting to, on my own, experiment with making my own blends. Um,
Oh,
yeah, yeah. So it's a lot of fun.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So tell us once again about what your classes are going to be and when they are, and how we want to get in on that free stuff for sure.
Okay, so yes, so if you go to my Facebook page or even my Instagram, both of them are Carol Benn Coaching. That's where you can find me. There's an event, and there's a link on my Instagram, where you can go to sign up for it, because you do have to go. You have to follow the link to Eventbrite, get your ticket, and then you will get the Zoom link to attend. So it is next Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, the 16th, 17th, and 18th. And so, like I said, my goal is to create community, safe community for women to come to, create sacred space for them to be able to share their knowledge, share whatever they're going through, and get information. I'm also going, like I said, I'm going to be teaching some each day. I will be teaching a tantric based embodied practice. And I know when I say tantric or tantra, a lot of people automatically think that means sex. It does not. Tantra is a lot more than just that. Tantra is more about connecting to the divine through different practices. Um,
So you're connecting through the divine during sex?
you can yes, any in the tantric philosophy, anything that you do can be sacred, can be a sacred act
Huh.
and connect you to the divine. Washing dishes can be a sacred act. Mopping the floor could be a sacred act. Taking a shower could be a sacred act.
Yeah.
Making dinner could be a sacred act. Having sex can be a sacred act.
Yeah. So like, I mean, just because now my head's going around that. We have like a sacral chakra and a root chakra,
Yes.
which I think we store a lot of bad energy
Mhm.
in those chakras. And I think, like, what's your opinion? Do you see people have a lot of blocks with those areas?
Oh, definitely. If someone has either some type of sexual dysfunction,
Mhm.
or even just the mental emotional that they, the either sexual trauma or just sexual beliefs that, that block them from their sexuality, anything that mentally emotionally blocks them from their
Mhm.
sexuality. Yeah, they've got some stuff going on in their root, in their sacral chakra, that needs to be cleared out.
Cleaned out. We need to
Cleaned out.
clean our chakras so that we
Clean
can
our
be
chakras
happy.
out. Yes, get them balanced. So yeah, so they're working great. And we do work on that. That is something that in my practice and my coaching,
Oh,
um,
I love that.
that I work with. Yes.
Yeah,
Well, and
I just went to Dr. Joe Dispenza's
mm,
seminar, and it was all about like connecting all of the chakra systems and
yes.
trying to connect with the pineal gland and the brain. And it's just very interesting work. And I would assume that what you're doing is speaking to cleaning out those chakras so that that energy can be restored and bringing light and love to those energy spaces.
Yes, and also have that free flow of energy.
Yeah.
And the other thing with some of the tantric practices is that you can learn how to use the energy to create desire or to create more pleasure. Um,
Ah.
so yeah, it's really interesting. I didn't know before I took my training. I didn't know anything about tantra, so it was a really interesting journey, um, to go through that and learn all of it. So
So interesting. So I just throw this one funny one in there. Like there's a lady that can hold a coconut up with her muscles down there.
yep,
Have you heard of that? It's like doing exercises,
yep.
I guess like the perineum exercises. Is that what?
Well, it's all the muscles in the pelvic floor is what she's using. Yeah, and yeah, there's exercises that you can do to that incorporate weights, to get really strong.
If those muscles are stronger, are the orgasms stronger?
Yes,
Huh.
yes, they
So as
are.
our muscles get weaker,
It's kind of that, use it or
you
lose
lose
it,
it.
you know. But um, but something else that I learned, really important. So some women, their pelvic floor muscles are too tight.
Huh.
And if they are too tight, the last thing you want to do is to do strengthening exercises. So you don't want to do Kegels. So
Hmm.
think about it. If you have, if you're working out, you're going to the gym, and I don't know, what muscle do I want to use? Well, I'll just say your calf muscle is super tight and it won't release. You don't want to go to the gym and do
Mm.
muscles. You don't want to do exercises to build it. You want to find ways to release the muscles before you start strengthening them.
Why do they sometimes have tight muscles like that?
Um, a lot of times it can be trauma from birth, from birthing their children.
Ah,
It could be
huh.
sexual trauma. It could be, it could all be psychological too. You know, if you've had, if there's ever been any type of abuse, and it doesn't have to be sexual abuse, it could be mental, emotional, you know, or physical abuse
Huh.
at your body. That's just, you know, and you don't feel safe. If you don't feel safe in your body, if you don't feel safe, even though you may love your partner and you know you're safe with them,
Mhm.
there's still that trauma response that I'm not safe.
Yeah, you have that barrier around you that's
Yes.
like, ah.
And it can show up. I mean, any trauma and anything and any emotion that we experience gets stored in our body. Well, our trauma, it can get stored in our pelvic floor, and our muscles can tighten up. So some women, when they talk about, you know, having pain with intercourse, it's not just that there's not enough lubrication. It
Yeah.
could be that there, I because I met a woman, that's what she came on a Facebook page that I was a part of, and she was like, I don't know what to do because it's so painful. And she's like, you know, the doctor, you know, told me to use this lube, and he gave me, you know, this hormone and blah blah blah. I started, I messaged her, and so we started our own private message, and in talking to her, no, coming to find out, her pelvic floor was so tight her husband couldn't even penetrate,
Oh.
and it was so painful with him trying to. But
Oh.
women don't realize that's a thing.
Yeah, no.
That's a real thing. So yes, sometimes doing the pelvic floor exercises to tighten everything up is great, but then there are times you need to know that if you do have, that type of pain with intercourse, or you can't have intercourse, um, that no, you should not be, because most doctors, if you say, oh, if you go to your GYN and you tell him, oh, I have painful intercourse, he's going to tell you do Kegels.
Mm.
Seriously, that's what they tell you. You
Yeah,
know,
what I say, yeah.
don't, I tell you, don't do that. Don't do it. Don't do it. But there are ways that, there's things that you can do to release those muscles, and exercises that you can do to release those muscles. And I know a woman, she is a pelvic floor expert, and she is absolutely amazing. And that's who I learned some of this stuff from.
Yeah, I think one of the things I learned about the pelvic floor that it's also your hip muscles too.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's a
It is
lot
so
more muscles involved than just what's going on in the perineum sac.
Exactly, exactly. I know most people hear pelvic floor and they think, you know, oh, it's just, you know, for sex and stuff. No, it's your whole, it really spreads throughout your pelvis. And men have a pelvic floor too. You
Hmm,
know, we
I
always talk
didn't think
about
about
women's
that.
pelvic floor, women's pelvic floor health, but men have a pelvic floor too. And that can affect them also sexually.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, this has been very interesting. I so appreciate you coming. I just want to remind everybody one more time that Carol is doing a class. It's going to be next week, starting on Tuesday, the 16th
Yes.
at 6:30.
Yeah. 5 p.m. Central Time.
Sorry, 5 p.m. Central Time. So find her and get in that class.
Yep.
Carol, thank you so much. It was a wonderful hour of learning about how we can do some things differently for ourselves and to be more comfortable with who we are. I think the bigger thing is going to be getting in this free class and really learning how to be intimate.
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Yes, yes, and I hope you all come and join me, create community with the wise women. I love it. Love it. And
I
thank
like
you
the,
so
I
much for,
love your name too. That's awesome.
yes, thank you.
Say it one more time.
It's the Wise Woman Collective.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
love that.
making menopause sexy.
Get your sexy on, girls.
That's right. That's right.
All right. See you next time.
Okay, thank